Have you ever heard of anything about those living under the earth? Hello, I'm glad you came. I was doing a very interesting research. As you know, many religions talk about beings that live underground and look like humans. So, have you ever thought about how these creatures live, what they eat, what they drink? While looking for answers to all these questions, a place where Hitler was chasing dragged me to Akabala. Hitler had found a map. He was about to solve one of the greatest mysteries of history, which would take him to that place. But this place was miles underground. I know it sounds so weird that it can't be real. Throughout human history, we have gathered a lot of information with the countless scientific studies we have done on this subject. In fact, so much work has been done and continues to be done that the information we have about far away from us is perhaps more than the one that is closest to us. That is, just below our feet. Although very important scientific studies are being done on the bottom of the Earth, what we can learn about the inside of the world becomes very difficult after a point. It is harder to go up than to go down. With the studies we have done on the earthquakes we have experienced, we have more information about the bottom and layers of the Earth's crust and can produce various theories on this subject. But the day does not pass without an interesting discovery. Here is the most interesting of them. An ocean that the French, German and Russian scientists have discovered deep in the crust of the Earth. You heard it right. As a result of the research, it is thought that the total number of oceans on Earth is 3 times as many as another ocean, 400 to 600 kilometers below the Earth. I added the link to the article published in the famous science magazine called Nature to the description section. But now, rather than the scientific side of the matter, I will talk about such a theory that you will find it hard to believe what you hear. If you are ready, let's get started. A letter came to the leaders of dozens of countries and scientists in various parts of the world. These people, who opened the envelope and read the letter, may have witnessed the strangest words they have heard so far. These lines were in the letter. I declare that the inside of the Earth is livable. There is an entrance from the poles and an entrance from the poles, and I am ready to prove that it is true. If the world helps me, after John Cleves left us, the letters were destroyed and this issue was closed. Until the moment when a single letter left years later was in the hands of Hitler. Hitler was very excited about what they heard. I wonder where John Cleves could have reached this information in his letter. Hitler, who immediately started researching the subject, sent a team under the leadership of Herbert Willigard to Tibet to investigate the subject. Where are the poles? Where is Tibet? You may be wondering what it has to do with. As you know, 1 billion Hindus live on Earth and 500 million Buddhists live on Earth. That is, 20% of the world's population. According to the belief that these people have an attractive ratio, there is another race in the center of the world, just like the Gog tribe, which will come to Earth near the apocalypse when the time comes, and Gog and Magog with their names in the Bible. In other words, there are tribes that live underground in almost every religion. There is another living area in Hinduism and Buddhism that is believed to be underground, and its name is Agartha. According to many Islamic and historical researchers, the mountain where Zulkarni built a set for Yejuk Mejuk and their connection with the Earth is in the Himalayas. In other words, it is the same as the region where the entrance gates of Agartha are thought to be. The team sent by Hitler to Tibet tells Himmler, one of the statemen who came before the Nazis, about the information they obtained when he returned. Himmler could not hide his excitement in the face of what he heard. He immediately goes to Hitler's presence with a large meeting, and with the extraordinary information they obtained, a map taken from Tibetan priests is transferred to Hitler with great excitement. The first steps of the great adventure were taken in this meeting, because in that map, one of the entrances to the underground world located in the poles was indicated. If they could find that place, they would reach the Agarthans told in the legend, and a race called Shambhala, which is not humane like the Agarthans living in the same place, but is even an enemy of humans. By the way, many people think that this race, which is named Shambhala and is an enemy of humans, could be Yejuk Mejuk communities. Date 1939. Hitler assigns Hermann Ring to find the entrance to the underground world. They get news that Hitler and his wife had lost their lives was circulated all over the world. But even after Hitler's death, the conspiracy theories about him were not cut off. One of them is that Hitler is actually still alive. One of the reasons people doubt this is that Hitler's body is said to be 10 centimeters longer than Hitler. Even today, it is believed that he is still hiding in South America or above the poles. The most striking part of the story begins just after Hitler's death or disappearance. Now hold on tight. After the news that Hitler had lost his life, the CIA, which was established 2 years later, decided not to leave this mysterious death and began to investigate the incident. They were suspicious that the Nazis had set up a base in the poles. As a result of the raids they carried out on it, they questioned thousands of German soldiers and confiscated all the documents and research of the Nazis. On it, they found a document called the Captain of the Führer's A-class underwater boats. This document contained 38 maps in high secrecy. There were underwater corridors going to a city under the ice in Antarctica on the maps. This document is transferred to the US President Harry Truman by the CIA. By the order of the President, who saw the documents, the US Navy began Operation High Jump, which they kept very secret on August 26, 1946. They reported to the press that this operation was carried out for geographical and meteorological research. 13 ships, 33 planes and 4,700 personnel. A geographical research that seems to go to war. When Philo reached the Marquez Islands, the date was December 12, 1946. An air surveillance station was established here. They made a 10-day exploration flight. Later, Philo turned the route to the Ballena Corpus, which was said to be the entrance to the underwater world. But when they got here, they lost 3 ships and 8 planes. First of all, they told the press that this happened as a result of a cliff fall. But in the statements made by some soldiers in the fleet years later, they were attacked by flying vehicles in the shape of a disc coming out of the water, and they were seriously injured. What do you say? The images that have been shot as a flying circle for decades, in fact, they are not coming to visit us from space. Can there be vehicles that are always... Although the last American government sent a wrecking team to this region in 2004, they could not reach a result. But the event did not end like this. Now we come to the most heartbreaking part of what happened. February 1947. During a reconnaissance flight that Admiral Richard Bryd made to the North Pole from the US Navy, an unthinkable event that he experienced, he transferred notes to his diary from time to time, and this diary emerged after he lost his life. Everything I have told so far, events that you can easily reach with official documents and documents. The diary of Admiral Bryd is also included in this. Of course, God knows the reality of the events. That's why I ask you to do your own research on this subject, about what you hear and see. At the moment you are in any hesitation, examine the sources on the subject and decide for yourself whether you will believe it or not. After all, we neither lived at that time, nor can we fly to the point where we want the poles right now. What is told about Antarctica may be a fantastic fiction, but we have no choice but to listen to it, because it tells that important state people experienced such events. Let's get to the notes in the diary. Since it is a bit long, I will summarize it for you. Those who wish can read all the notes later. Inner world. My secret diary. I should write this diary in secrecy. What I wrote is about the flight I made on the 19th day of February, 1947 in the Arctic. When the time comes, people will definitely be smarter and will inevitably accept the truth. I do not have the freedom to explain what I wrote, but it is my duty to record them so that everyone can see them one day. In this greedy and exploitative world, I am sure that mankind will not be able to suppress the facts anymore. After that, I skip a little and come to the place where Admiral reached during his flight to Antarctica. This is a green area thousands of meters below. There are mountains, vegetation, animals, and even a big city and people. There is nothing to be afraid of here, Admiral. You will be accepted in the presence of the master, he says. I go inside, I see striking colors. The room is enchanting and very impressive. There is a very beautiful person in front of him. My thoughts are interrupted. He speaks with a melodic and warm voice. Welcome to our place, Admiral. He is a man. There are traces of many years on my face. He sits at a long table and then stands up and shows me a place to sit. We sit. He looks at me and smiles and speaks again with that soft melodic voice. "We allowed you to enter here because you are a noble person known on the surface of the earth." "Is it the surface of the world?" he says. And I hold my breath. He smiles and, "Yes, we are in the inner world right now. I will not take you more than your duty. You will return to the surface safely. But now, Amiral, I will tell you why we accepted you here. We are very interested in the first atomic bombs that your race exploded in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. For this reason, we passed the alarm and sent our flying vehicles. We call them Flugrat. They are watching you and researching what your race did on the surface. All this is in the past, Amiral. But we have to continue. We have never interfered with the wars and barbarism of your race before. But now the situation is different. You have learned a power that is not natural for humanity, that is, atomic energy. Our private officers are sending messages to the forces in the world, but they haven't responded yet. Your race has reached a point where there is no return right now. There are those who will try to destroy the world rather than leave the power in your hands. After 1945, we tried to establish a relationship with your race, but it was treated as an enemy. Our flying vehicles were set on fire and dropped. Your war vehicles treated them as enemies for bad purposes and chased ours. Now I'm telling you, son, there is a great storm of evil in your world. Black anger and violence have been accumulating for years without ever stopping. There is no point in your armament. There is no safe place in your knowledge. Every flower that blooms in your culture is crushed and destroyed by anger and violence. All human beings have fallen into a deep chaos. The last war you lived in is just the beginning of what will happen to your race later. Here, we see the situation more clearly every day. Yes, my son. The dark ages are now coming on your race. This darkness will cover the world like a cover, but I believe that some of your race will be able to live. But there is more time for this. I can't say more." Yes. The Admiral then added some notes and wrote that he left this region safely and returned home. March 11, 1947. I was ready for a meeting in the Pentagon. I told what happened. I explained this discovery I had made and conveyed the message of the Master. Everything was recorded as necessary. Information was transferred to the President, but I feel delayed or detained. They had long talks with the high-security organization and a medical team. I perceive a purpose. I was in great trouble. I was under strict control due to the U.S. national security conditions. And finally, I got the order. I don't want to be silent about everything I know. I was going to do this for humanity. Unbelievable. But I'm a soldier, and I have nothing to do but obey orders. Now let's put the diary aside. On January 26, 1967, it is said that photos taken by NASA's ESA-3 and then by ESA-7 satellite on November 23, 1968 were later deciphered. In addition, NASA hopes to receive signals from outside the world during a study they carried out in a statement it had made before. But on the contrary, they were quite surprised by the radio signals coming from the inside of the world. In addition to these, the Majuxi Red Devils, who lived in Brazil until 1907, and the cave journeys of people known as the protectors of the inner world with their other names, took at least 15 to 20 days. And according to what was said, they said that there were creatures of invisible dimensions on the surface of the earth, where they reached the ends of the cave. Just like the creature named Dabba Tul Ard, which will communicate with people by going under the ground near the apocalypse mentioned in the Quran. There are still many mysteries in our country. There are so many believers who believe that the underground city of the deep well in Nev Shehir is also a door to the deep world. There are so many people who believe that the underground city of the deep well in Nev Shehir is also a door to the deep world. Undoubtedly, the Son Dong Cave in Vietnam, which is the most well-known and countless legend. This endless cave is so big that it has its own clouds and rainforests. When we start to get rid of the effects of the pandemic, one of my plans is to take you to this cave alive. So it's good to stay tuned. Hope to see you in the next video.